I wanted to just give you a little overview of our whole learning process, our concept of learning. And our concept of learning is that it be transformational rather than transactional. And we'll get into some more detail about that in just a few minutes. The second piece of this is the context. What's the context that our learning takes place in? And for us, the context is a learning community. We want all learning to take place in the presence of a learning community. The third piece is our curriculum itself. We're focused on 4 dynamics in our curriculum. Those are the man, the message, the ministry, and the mission. And then finally, what are the consequences of our learning? What's the fruit of all of this? Once we look at and analyze the consequences of what we have learned, how they're actually impacting our lives and the lives of those we serve, we can then feed that back into our concept of learning, transformational learning, and again, the cycle continues. And so we're continually growing. We're growing together. We're growing in our knowledge of ourselves, the message we've been entrusted with, the ministry that God has given us, and the mission that He's called us to. And then we are paying particular attention to the fruit of all of this in the lives of the people that we lead. So what do we mean when we use the term transformational learning as opposed to transactional learning? Well, transactional learning was probably what most of us grew up with in school. We were given information and we were told to remember it. And perhaps even we had to recite it back to a teacher, but that was the extent of it until exam time came, and then we had to regurgitate it onto a piece of paper. Transformational learning is learning that occurs when our beliefs are changed or transformed, and thereby changing our entire perspective about a topic, issue, or situation. There are 4 main components to transformational learning. The first is our experience. What is it that is being presented to us? How is it being presented? How are we experiencing that? How is that coming into us? The second is then we take the step of critically reflecting on it. Maybe we will spend some time meditating on a passage of scripture. That is like a critical reflection. And we can do that kind of thing with whatever it is that we are learning. The third is reflective discourse, where we bring what we have learned, what we've understood, what has come up in us, what's been revealed to us in our personal critical reflection, and we bring that together with other people, others in our learning community. And we see how the merging of these ideas and these concepts and these insights then produces something new for all of us and something greater. And it's that then that leads to the fourth component, which is action. So when we take all 4 of those components and we put them together, that produces what we would call transformational learning. And we can see that it's happened by the action and the fruit of the action that comes as a result of it. So let me share a few words now about the idea of a learning community. What is a learning community? Well, first, a learning community is really a community characterized by a few things. Before we look at the function or how it works, we really want to look at the culture, the nature of what that community is. And there are some key pieces to that. A learning community is one where there is an acceptance of others in love. A learning community is one where there's a sense of wonder at what God has done and how He has made each of the individual members of the community. A learning community is characterized by a profound humility in each of the participants. And then finally, there's a deep compassion one for another amongst the members of that learning community. Now, with that in mind and those characteristics established, we get into what does the learning community do? Well, one of the main functions of the learning community is to provide a context for shared discovery and learning, where individual members of the community take responsibility not just for their own learning, but also for each other They seek to help each other grow so that the entire knowledge base, skill base, competency base, expertise of the entire community is elevated. The second thing the learning community provides is functional connections amongst the learners. How do we connect with one another in a functional way? How do we support one another? What practical means do I have of contributing to your ministry? The third piece of this is that we have the opportunity, members of a learning community have the opportunity outside of the context that the learning community normally meets in, to connect with one another, to encourage one another, to minister to one another, and to contribute to one another's well-being and ministry. Finally, the fourth piece of this is that it's an inclusive learning environment. We're always wanting to welcome people in, appreciate their differences, learn from their differences, see how we can leverage each other's differences to increase our learning. The beautiful thing about a diverse community is that the potential for learning and growing increases exponentially with the degree of diversity. So that's what a learning community is about.